So I debated on whether or not I wanted to make the video regarding Cyberpunk and some of the stuff that some of the developers have been saying on social media and just online in general. I've been debating on whether or not I wanted to talk about it. I've been debating on whether or not I wanted to speak about the really bad launch for the game. It's been rough. I got the game a week ago because the game has already been up for about a week now. I started getting ready to start playing, and I already immediately noticed some problems when I booted up the game. And to give further context, I'm playing this on the PlayStation 4 because I didn't really think there would be a problem with me playing it on console, so I didn't think about getting it on PC. In hindsight, maybe I should have gotten it on PC and I wouldn't be really having the issues that I have. And maybe the next generation console, if I had that as well, maybe it wouldn't have been nearly as big of an issue if I was playing on console. But I'm playing it on the PlayStation 4, and so far, yeah, the things that you've been hearing about this version of the game are both exaggerated and just for meme's sake, I think, but also not entirely inaccurate because it didn't launch in a way that it was supposed to launch. It's not working as intended. The developers know this, and that's why they've been offering refunds for people who did buy it on console. And yeah, ultimately this whole thing fucking sucks because I've been playing. I'm about like almost 40 hours in. I'm level 30 for my first character, and I'm still playing and I'm still enjoying it. That's the reason why I don't, shit on this game nearly as much as probably some other people. Is because I'm playing and I'm still enjoying it. I still think this game is incredibly fun. I'm still enjoying myself playing through this game because I think the architecture of the world itself, I think the characters and the writing, the voice acting, the combat is super fun. I'm playing a stealth character so far, and stealth is super fun. The gadgets and like the hacking stuff that you can do is super cool. There's so many things that I think the developers did really right with this game, but the way that they handled the launch and by not showing that this was a thing and the fact that they didn't work on it like they should have is definitely not the way that they should have done it. And like I said, for what it's worth, the developers know what they did was wrong, and they know that they should have worked on this more, and they probably should have given reviewers copies of this game for review purposes to let people know that on console these versions of the game are not working as intended. And it's not even the developers' fault, because I'm seeing people shit on the devs, but this isn't really the devs' fault. It's not their fault, because all they did was make the game. They didn't advertise the game. They didn't give people review copies. They're not the ones who do that. It's an entirely different party of people that do that, and it's their fault. It's their fault for not properly, releasing material that has to revolve around that, for giving better information that that's going to be the case. And it fucking sucks. It fucking sucks that this game is getting scrutinized for, bugs and glitches, which, I mean, it shouldn't have launched like this in the first place. I'm not defending, the fact that the game is like this, but what I'm saying is that it's not really the devs' fault entirely, because you have to think about the circumstance that they're in. What were they really going to do? In my head, I'm like, what were they really going to do? Were they going to delay the game again and get scrutinized even more by people online and say, like, this game's never gonna get released, this and that, blah 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 blah, like people had already been doing for like the past of the entirety of the year of 2020, as the game kept getting delayed after delayed after delayed and stuff? Or were they gonna release it like the way they did and not properly test all the versions of the game, test to see if they're all working as intended, and just release it out the way they did, so that way people can either just shut the fuck up and start playing the game and not say anything else, or criticize them for something else? And obviously the latter is what happened instead. I think in a few years' time, Cyberpunk is going to be working as intended on all the versions of the game that it should. I think on PC, it's always going to run the best on PC, but they're obviously going to tweak some stuff to fix some issues that's there. On the next generation consoles, they're definitely going to work way better. I think with some more time, it would have been fine. Maybe if they delayed it again, maybe they could have, fixed these issues. I don't know if I would have liked that, not because of the sake that I really wanted to play the game, but because I would have been really annoyed at that point by people bragging on the devs for delaying the game again, because they would have done that. They would have completely just started shitting on them for delaying it once more instead of just releasing the game. A game that people had been really wanting to play, that people had purposely been getting time off of work to be able to play. It sucks that this happened in the first place, and I do understand the criticism. I'm probably going to show some gameplay from my perspective, right? From when I'm playing. Lighting takes a few seconds to load in, textures don't load in properly, melee combat in terms of like fist combat, those side quests where you have to fight like certain people with your bare fists and stuff like that. Those side missions were fucking terrible to do because the fucking enemies would glitch all around, and I had to play around the fact that they were doing that and basically cheese the fuck out of them, especially because I'm not playing a build that has to revolve around doing fisticuffs. Frame rate is an issue at times where it just suddenly drops to like 14 fucking frames or some shit. Obviously the game has many technical issues that need to be fixed, and I think in due time they are going to be fixed, and it's going to be a great experience for people who haven't bought the game yet. But for right now, I can only ever recommend that you wait a little bit. If you really want to play, I suggest obviously playing on a next-gen console version, or through the backwards compatibility thing, you can still play it on the next gen consoles, but not a next gen version of the game, or you can just play on the PC. Those are the only two versions of the game that I can actually unironically recommend it that you play on, because if you're gonna play on PS4 like I am, you're gonna have a really rough time. Now, if you don't let it ruin your experience like me, then it's fine, but I will admit that it has been kind of rough for me to want to keep playing because of the fact of the technical issues. I try to, let it slide to a certain extent, but then just the frame rates, the texture's not loading in properly. There's an area on the map where it looked like the textures weren't loading properly, and I had to sit there and wait a second to see if they were supposed to load in. But no, that was the way the map was supposed to look like, and I couldn't believe that was honestly the case, that the game is so fucked that it's gotten to that point where even though textures are supposed to load in like the way they do, it still looked like they weren't loading in. Now, I would recommend also, if you're going to be playing on the PlayStation 4 version, or any version of the game really, turn off motion blur and film grain, because in my experience, that has helped frame rate extensively, substantially. It has helped me way better in terms of frame rate with having those two options turned off. Be warned that those options turn back on sometimes. For me, sometimes they would just turn back on without me doing it. I don't know what causes that, but viewer discretion is advised. This isn't really a review for the game because I haven't really talked about like the interweavings of the game itself. I just mainly talked about how the devs didn't really handle this release of the game too well. They have, apologized for it and do intend to give refunds and fix the game, obviously. And obviously that's really good that they're doing that. And mostly just ranted about how buggy the game is and obviously needs to be fixed. That's honestly all I can really say. I think people have already heard this more than enough for the past week now, for the past few days. And this is just another person on the internet talking about it, so that's all I can really say about this whole circumstance of events that's happening with Cyberpunk. I haven't finished the game yet, but I think by the time that it's like maybe around Christmas time, or not Christmas time, but on like Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, I'll probably be done with the game, or with the story rather, with my first playthrough. And when that's done, I'm going to talk about the game overall and probably a review. So yeah, be on the lookout. If you want to see the video, obviously subscribe for more videos. And yeah, that's the end of the video. See you guys next one. I'm out. Peace.